Good evening. Thank you for attending this first of its kind virtual TCAN annual meeting. I'm Michael Collins, the board chair, and while this event is usually a social occasion where members and patrons can network and engage, we've obviously had to make some adjustments due to these unprecedented times. The idea, obviously, is to keep everybody socially distanced and safe. I'd like to thank the staff who've worked very hard on this, and to Randy Brewer and the staff at Pegasus who have made this happen so that we can invite you to this meeting from your homes. We do this meeting every year to elect the officers and the directors, as well as to look back on the prior year to reflect on the performance and the events at TCAN. The nominating committee, by majority opinion, has decided that consistency in leadership would be appropriate given what we are going through right now. And the majority vote by the board is to re-elect the current slate of officers and directors. The current slate is Steve Wilson as treasurer, Ed Hudson as clerk, and Michael Collins as board chair. I'd also like to ratify Antonio Viva, William Bachman, Stephen Kaplan, Ed Strickland, Erica Ball, Rick Jennett, Tom Halchuk, and Frank Hannenberger as directors. I want to thank these individuals for their time, their guidance, and their intelligent insight, and all of which I would not be able to be effective without. So thank you very much to them. You know, while the purpose of this annual meeting is to reflect back at the prior year, it would be impossible not to address what the future of the performing arts here in Natick and across the country is going to be. And I'll be turning this meeting over momentarily to David to discuss just that, where he can look back at last year and take a glimpse into a year ahead. 2019 was a very successful year for the organization, and despite what we're going through, 2020 has started very, very strong. Not only did we end the year with a positive cash position, which is the first time in many, many years, we were able to accomplish a number of capital improvement projects that have been long overdue. Thanks to a culture facilities grant, we were able to waterproof the stone foundation walls of the antique firehouse. We were able to re-roof several sections of the flat roof of the building, and very noticeably a needed resurface with an epoxy finish on the performance hall floor. All three of those were major projects that we were able to accomplish. Another one of our accomplishments of the year is the beginning of a complete reworking and rewriting of our strategic plan. We're working with SOAR Management Consulting Group to develop this new plan to look ahead for the next 5 years. And most gratifyingly, we've made significant gains and strides to eliminate debt and to pay off our mortgage. The year's strong cash position, a grant from the Mass Gaming Commission, the Payroll Protection Fund plans, and an amazing response from donors has infused the organization and really helped us to sustain over this very difficult period of time when we've been shut down. So finally, I'd like to really thank David LaValle, and as I turn the camera over to him on the other side of the room, for his calm and very steady leadership over the last year, but certainly over the last 3 months. This has been a trying time for the organization, and I want to commend David and thank him for everything that he's done to help this organization. So with that, please, David, take it away.
Thank you, Michael, and welcome everyone to our first virtual annual meeting. I apologize to any of you who experienced a delay. It took us a bit to get this online, but we felt it was important to take this opportunity to connect with you, even though it is virtually, to share with you some information about our accomplishments last year and a little bit about the state of the organization given the crisis. We really miss seeing all of you. It's been about 15 years since I've had this many weekends off in succession, and it's just been hard to not see our volunteers, all of our staff and technical people, the artists, and all of you members and patrons. So we look forward to a time in the future when we can all get together once again. I do want to thank Natick Pegasus for helping us out with this live stream tonight. So thanks to Randy Brewer and Jeff Letty. We wouldn't be able to pull off this live stream without their help. So thanks very much to you both. This is very strange for us to be staring into lights and a camera instead of speaking to you in person at the venue. So for my sake tonight, I think I'm going to be imagining that I'm speaking to Peter and Hillary. I'm going to imagine that I'm looking at Kate and Ed and welcoming you to the venue, and I'm thinking of Karen and Reggie and Michael and Elizabeth sitting in the front row. So tonight, I'll let you be my audience as I'm sharing the information with you tonight. We're going to take a look back at 2019. I know that everyone has a number of questions about the COVID-19 crisis, but I feel it's important to recognize all the people who made it possible for us to have what turns out was our best year since the founding of the organization in 1997. So we'll do that first. Secondly, the COVID-19 crisis has touched all of us, and our hearts go out to members and volunteers who've been affected personally by this. We know such a large number of people who come to the events, and I've heard from so many of them, some of who have lost a parent or a loved one, those who've tested positive themselves. And it's a challenge for all of us, and our prayers go out to all of you members of the TCAN community who've been affected by this. Later on in the presentation, I'll be sharing more information about how TCAN is faring in the crisis. And I also, before I move on, just wanted to let everyone know that tonight we stand with those who are protesting peacefully against racial injustice in our community and across the nation. This is a stressful, difficult time for people in our country, and that's on our mind as well. But it also reminds us of our purpose as an organization and how importantly TCAN plays a role in bringing people together. Institutions like TCAN at times like this are particularly important, and which is why I'm so grateful that we've had such an outpouring of support for TCAN to make sure that we don't disappear as we sustain what's turned out to be a fairly long absence and suspension of programming. 2019 was a powerful finale, however, to a decade of growth and positive change for TCAN. Just an amazing year, and it draws into even more stark contrast as we entered 2019 after this incredible year to be facing the challenges that we're facing. But now more than ever, we are recommitted to serving our mission. If we could have the slide. So Our mission hasn't changed as much as that we have not been able to present live performances. We continue to believe that the arts are essential to the creation of a vibrant and healthy community. And don't we all realize that more than ever now? TCAN has provided opportunities to experience, participate, and learn about the arts. And we're continuing to do that with virtual experiences. And we'll share more information about that as well. TCAN also provides access to diverse arts programs and reduces barriers to attendance and building appreciation through arts education. We're more committed to this mission than ever. Slide. These are the folks that are on the TCAN staff who are probably most visible. These are people who work so hard behind the scenes to make sure that we can bring the programming that we deliver to you week after week. There are many people who are out of work, frankly, because of TCAN's closure. There are so many performing artists, musicians who are not able to appear. There are technical staff, sound engineers, lighting engineers. There are event managers. There are hundreds of volunteers who look forward to the access they get, the social connection that they experience with our audience. And those folks are not able to be with us. But the folks that you see here are still hard at work, even though they're working at home. And we're doing a lot of Zoom calls and virtual working. But I want to recognize and thank each one of those folks that you can see on the screen. They're the most talented, most dedicated team that we've ever had working for TCAN. I love them all. So we appreciate their support, their dedication in sticking with things, even in these challenging times. We want to talk a little bit about programming. TCAN and the communities that we support are completely interconnected. The music and theater and film that we present are a reflection of the time we live in, but also the diverse people who make up our community. So there's a solid connection here between our programming and our community. We hope that you enjoyed the programs in 2019. As I'll share with you in more detail, over 30,000 people participated in programs at TCAN in 2019. And most of all, we hope you remember the friends and family that you shared those moments with, because that's really what it's all about, is bringing people together through the arts. Just, if I can show you a slide of the audience. This chart shows the growth in our attendance in performances since 2007, and it's good news. It shows that we've continued to grow year after year. We experienced a terrific peak of our program attendance in 2019. With the exception of 2016, when we were closed for a month or so with our renovations on the second floor, the community has continued to support our growth over the last decade. So I'm honored and humbled by this, and we certainly hope that continues to grow. I want to talk a little bit about some of our programming that we had in 2019. These artists have a very high profile, and so a lot of people really discover TCAN through these performances. So they're very critical to our survival as an organization. They're not the only thing we do, but they're a very important thing that we do. And so, artists like Peter Wolf, want to come back year after year. We were honored to have Haley Reinhart, a young performer, Liz Longley, Adrian Belew, who played guitar with King Crimson and David Bowie, and Naturally Seven, a fabulous a cappella group, along with a long list of other performances that in the popular vein. We also were fortunate to have a bit more adventurous music as well. Jazz and blues with artists like Marcia Ball, Grace Kelly, of course, Tony Levin, the blues guitarist Ronnie Earl, and the great Billy Cobham. If we get back to me, yeah, okay. Bear with us as we're working through this, but we're all social distancing, so it's okay. I do want to take a moment thinking about the programming on the Mainstage stuff for last year to recognize Erin Basile of our staff for the great job that she's done in booking these performances and taking over a lot of the programming responsibility that I used to do personally. She's maintained a very strong calendar of events, and I really owe it to Erin for being able to negotiate those agreements and persuade those artists to come and perform in our room, and also achieve that peak of attendance. So congratulations and thanks to Erin for the work that she did to make all of that happen. We were also fortunate to have another successful year in our cinema screenings. This has opened up new doors for us, and it's allowed us to invite in folks who were not regular TCAN patrons, who are not members, and a number of folks who are in a younger demographic who really enjoy seeing these independent films that we're presenting. In 2019, we had a successful run with some rock and roll themed films like Linda Ronstadt, Rocket Man, and Amazing Grace featuring the great Aretha Franklin, but also documentaries like WBCN and the American Revolution, The Biggest Little Farm, and of course Downton Abbey, which was very popular as well. And I want to also make a shout out here to Nicola Anderson of our staff for developing the relationships with movie distributors and having the talent to be able to curate movies that would be a good connection with the community of which we're a part. Back in 2016, when we were working on turning the second floor into a cinema room, we had solid strategies for building the room and investing in the technology in order to do that, but we had no experience in booking cinema and booking film. And we were so fortunate to have Nicola appear and just in time to take that over for us, and she's done such a fabulous job. So thank you very much to Nicola Anderson as well for the great job that she's done. I know that you can applaud at home, you can applaud virtually, but please join me in thanking Nicola for the fabulous job that she's done. It goes without saying that it was important for us to maintain our commitment to community programming as well in 2019. It's important for me to mention that it's philanthropy from members and donors and business sponsors that make community programs like this happen and make it possible. Presenting classical music, presenting visual art exhibits by local artists in the Summer Street Gallery, making our space available to local nonprofits so that they can host fundraisers here. The TCAN players who've had so many successful community theater productions here, open mics, and education programs and entertainment for young children and their families. All of these programs are made possible by the charity from support from members and donors. And so we appreciate and acknowledge the support that they have given us to make those programs possible. I want to talk a little bit about membership. membership is really the base of our support. And 2019, we were gratified and honored to have the highest member count ever in our history, 1,983 members contributing to TCAN in that year. TCAN membership in the earliest days was very much a volunteer-driven activity. We had a number of volunteers working very hard to produce membership cards and make appeals and send out renewal letters to get members to join. Now we have members in 165 cities and towns all across Massachusetts and in New England. And I thought it might be fun for you to have a look at where our membership comes from for this little venue in Natick that had such humble beginnings. The top member communities, and you can see over time how our membership has grown, and the orange chart here is really showing new membership, and you can see how rapidly that's grown, as well as renewals, and we're gratified that our members continue to renew year after year, which is crucial to us. We got very close to the 2,000 mark in 2019, which was wonderful, and as much as we have so many cities and towns supporting us from across the state, we couldn't do it without the communities closest to us, to Natick, with 600 plus members, Framingham, Wellesley, Dover, Sherburne, Wayland, Needham. These towns represent 56% of our total membership, and we are grateful to them for sustaining us. It's so important. This is the same information but presented on a graph, and you can kind of see what a concentration of our membership looks like within the region of Metro West. But part of the reason that we've received support from the Mass Cultural Council is because of the amount of tourism that we generate and the number of folks who are willing to travel some distance to see performances at TCAN. That contributed to us receiving the most recent grant from the Mass Cultural Council for about $40,000, which is so important now as we're doing our best to try to sustain the organization through to when we can once again resume programs. I thought it would be fun also for you to take a look at the ranked listing of the towns by member. And this is by no means 100% of all of the communities, but all of these cities and towns have a meaningful number of members. And so you can see in Worcester County that Worcester leads the pack, followed by Shrewsbury and Upton, et cetera. But I think it just makes a statement about the value and the importance of the arts to everybody in the state, and the wonderful thing that we have here at TCAN in presenting the acts that we are able to get in a small and intimate venue with great sound and lighting. I want to talk a little bit about our capital campaign as well. Many of you know that in 2012 we set a goal to raise money to really to help prepare TCAN for the future. And the idea was to set some very clear, measurable goals. First and foremost was to extend our programs to the second floor so that we were using 100% of the facility for arts programming. Secondly, we hope to pay off our mortgage debt because we borrowed a significant amount of money very early in our history in order to complete the renovation back in 2003. And that debt burden is something that we've been carrying ever since. So the debt service and the principal payments for that loan were top priority, and made it difficult to afford some things, other things that we otherwise would have liked to do. So that was our second objective. And thirdly, we hope to secure the organization for future generations. The idea was that we want TCAN to continue to evolve. We want our audience to continue to evolve, and we want to take care of this historical building so that it is also here, along with its programming, for future generations to enjoy. In 2019, we reached $1,668,000 in donations received for a capital campaign, which is kind of amazing considering that our original goal was $1 million. So we kind of missed it from a forecasting standpoint, but our donors came through to deliver what it is we actually needed. We were successful in completing our renovation back in 2016, and that has been funded 100% without adding any more debt to the organization. As Mike mentioned earlier, we were also able to invest $100,000 in additional repairs that were completed in 2019, including repairs to the roof, waterproofing of the basement, and repair of the concrete floor in the main performance space. I'm very pleased to announce that at the end of 2019, we were able to retire our mortgage debt entirely. This is 8 years early, and this accomplishment is tremendous. It's going to allow us to endure as an organization. It's retiring that debt is going to allow us to perhaps take some more risk with programming. And importantly, it's going to allow us to retain the talented staff that we have. So I'm very excited that we achieved that goal. So we have about $80,000 remaining that we need to raise in order to meet all of the goals, the original goals of the capital campaign. And as it just so happens, we have 83 cinema seats that are available for sponsorship, which just about ties out. I'm very pleased to say that we have a donor who has raised their hand to match the first $15,000 in those chair sponsorships, and that money will go directly to the capital campaign to complete the remaining goals of that campaign. Okay, so with that, we kind of turned the page on 2019, and as I mentioned, we left 2019 enjoying the most successful year ever, and we were so optimistic in 2020 that 2020 was going to represent our most successful year ever. Little did we know what was up ahead. The Governor Baker announced the banning, an order banning public gatherings of 250 or more on March 13th. And I remember hearing that news and coming in to meet with the TCAN staff, and we all sat around the conference table and discussed what that meant to our organization, and should we try to have programs continue that had less than 250 people, or close things entirely. And I got to give it to the staff. Everyone felt very strongly that we had to act in the interest of public safety, and we decided to suspend all of our programming, and as much as that represented some risk to the organization. I'm happy to say that the staff is healthy. They're working from home and remotely via Zoom, and they're extremely busy, and in some ways even busier than they were before, because we've had to take on the postponement and rescheduling of about 40 events that probably represent about $350,000 in program revenue that has now been deferred, maybe till later this year, or maybe till next year. And there's probably more postponements to come. That loss of 4 months of program revenue has been extremely difficult for us. So we've depended almost entirely on contributed income during that period. And at this point, we are thinking that at least through June, all of those programs will be rescheduled. I have to say, though, you came through for us. Our members, our donors, very quickly after we closed our doors, started sending in letters of support, phone calls, voicemails, as well as contributions. And I can share with you that the contributions since March 13th have exceeded $137,000 to support TCAN, which is such a wonderful statement about how you want us to continue. In the month of May, a generous donor came forward to offer $10,000 that we could use as a match challenge to get to inspire folks to renew and join with their memberships in the month of May. In May of 2019, we had about 150 members in the month of May, and had for a total of about $13,000. And I'm very pleased to say that in May, the month just ended, you contributed $34,555, and that was a contribution from 266 members. So that was very meaningful to all of us to have you, even though we can't see you, continue to support us in that way. So thank you for that. And in addition to that, our anonymous donors will be contributing $10,000 to match the first 10,000 of those memberships. So we truly appreciate that. So the support has come from individuals as well as businesses like Metro West Subaru, and other business sponsors, and so we are grateful for that support. We also received generous grants from local foundations, the Nellie Mae Education Foundation, the Mass Cultural Council with the gaming mitigation grant that we received, and also a generous grant from the Foundation for Metro West together with MathWorks, who contributed as well. I can share with you also that TCAN was approved for the government, the Paycheck Protection Program loan, and we are fairly confident that 100% of that loan will be forgiven, and so that too will enable us to continue to sustain the organization in the absence of program revenue. Meanwhile, without concerts to present, the TCAN staff has been trying to come up with ways that we can continue to engage you, our patrons. And so they have come up with a few ideas for virtual programming. The first one, and this is programming that's available online, not on our stage. This is something we had talked about doing for years, but prompted by the crisis, now was the right time for us to proceed with that. The first one was virtual cinema, which allows us to offer first-run films that are made available through major distributors, and in a sharing arrangement with those distributors, when we direct you to those distributors' websites to view the film for a fee, we share in the proceeds of that screening. And so it's another way of keeping TCAN in mind and also getting some entertainment to mix things up at home while you're stuck watching Game of Thrones reruns or whatever. So the next thing we were able to do was put on some live stream concerts. And so we reached out to some of our close friends who are artists in our community, people like Grace Kelly, John Pousset Dart, the Oshima brothers, who were more than glad to host live stream concerts from their homes and do that to benefit TCAN. We've also received agreement from Matt Nakoa, a popular young performer who's going to also be doing a live stream. The Ladies of Laughter, which is coming up very soon, and Tom Rush has agreed to do that as well. And so it's great to have these relationships with these performers and have them be willing to contribute their time to help us continue. And then finally, online education workshops. Christy Pace has been presenting education programs for over 15 years here at TCAN, and it breaks our heart to have to suspend our summer education workshops for the very first time in all that length of time. But she's come up with a very creative way of delivering education workshops online, and is going to be doing that from her home in LA. And we're very excited about that. I think it offers a very exciting experience that will keep young minds occupied with an enthusiastic group of instructors. And so we're looking forward to that as well. Finally, in the near future, one of our thoughts is that it might be interesting to present some live stream concerts from our stage without an audience, but invite a performer or a small group to perform on our stage, and then have professionally mixed sound and lighting, and put that out and make it available on YouTube as well. So we're collaborating with Natick Pegasus on that concept, as well as our friends at Clever Mountain, Beth Chambers and Jim Fliss, who have agreed to help us as well. So we're looking forward to experimenting with presenting those live concerts at TCAN. And with all of this virtual programming, I think if it's successful, it may be something that we continue to present over time, even after reopening begins. Many of you have probably heard the governor's 4-stage process for reopening, and may be aware that arts and entertainment organizations like TCAN aren't free to reopen until phase 3 begins, which would probably put us at the very earliest to late July, August. I can tell you that we probably will not be the first venue to reopen our doors. We want to make sure that people feel safe coming into the venue, and that we can be properly prepared to implement all the precautions that are necessary in order for us to reopen. But reopen, we will. We're very committed to it, and we don't want you to forget us and forget who we are and the feeling that you have when you attend performances at TCAN. It's something that I think our community needs and that we enjoy doing, and we have every will to continue. So finally, I just want to thank you. We're so grateful to you for supporting us. It's just been such a gift to receive your support, and I thank you. All of us thank you. I want to open things back up for some questions. So if there's any questions that we've received online, Mike Collins is still here. We're socially distancing. He's on the other side of the room, and we'd be happy to respond to those questions. So with that, if we have any questions, I'm going to ask the staff to pass them to me somehow.
Hi, David. Well, we're just waiting for the questions to come in. We do have a comment. I went to a movie back in January, and the experience was great. A small theater with great acoustics and picture. A much more comfortable experience than going to a regular movie theater.
Well, that's delightful to hear. When we think about reopening, we have such a wide variety of programming that we offer. Some of our programs are fairly simple operationally, things like open mic, smaller groups, even movie screenings. These are fairly simple, and we feel that it may be possible to reopen with programming like that a lot sooner than the more complicated programs, such as larger concerts with a band or even the community theater productions. So we're glad that you enjoy the experience of seeing film in a venue like TCAN. And we are excited to continue that as soon as we can. So we're watching every day for news, and we're also monitoring a number of other of our sister venues all up and down the East Coast to try to learn best practices from those organizations and help that, and hopefully that will inform how we approach it as well. Do we have any other questions on the list?
We're waiting for more comments or questions. I have a comment saying, "Can't wait for the doors to reopen," and I know neither can we.
Well, we are anxious too, and I think as we all adjust to this crisis and respect social distancing and do what we can in order to stay safe. It's a constant reminder of what a special place TCAN is, and I can't help but think that looking back at performances in 2019 and for many years before, people come into the venue. They're happy, they're smiling, they're looking forward to the performance. They're embracing their friends when they see them, and lots of handshakes. There's people sitting very close together, enjoying the performance on stage, and then a line of people to meet the artist at the end of the evening. And it's difficult to imagine a TCAN performance happening in exactly the same way for some time. But I haven't given up hope that live performances are at their end in the United States. I just refuse to believe that. Broadway is currently scheduled to reopen in September with performances. And while we'll all deal with the changes that are put upon us that relate to keeping people safe, we'll all work together to get through that. I know that the artists that I've spoken to are misperforming terribly, and they cannot wait to get back to performing for audiences. So as badly as you miss seeing them, they miss seeing you as well. I'm going to take the opportunity to adjourn this meeting. We will take the opportunity to respond to any questions online, so that you can see, and if you have any questions, you can contact us directly at nativearts.org on our feedback page. We have one more slide in the deck, I think, Josh, if that's still available. And I wanted to share with you, in the event that you'd like to assist us in sustaining the organization while programs are suspended, we came up with 10 ways that you can help to do just that. So if you go to our website at nativearts.org/COVID-19, there's a list of ideas, and any one of those things would be a tremendous help. So with that, I'm going to wrap things up and appreciate that. Stay safe, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you again on the other side of this. Okay, thank you and good night.